What is good, everyone? It is I, Lucius, and today I decided to come on in with a new kind of video, and I will be ranking the Dead by Daylight killers based on how fun I think they are. Now, this means I will be going over both how fun they are to go against and how fun they are to play as. I will put them in the same tier list, which means I will be taking an average. Keep in mind that everything is my opinion, and all of this will just be about how fun they are for the game as a whole. And we're of course gonna start off with our good friend, the Trapper. I was too lazy to actually, you know what? I'm very briefly gonna name all this. Pure Joy. This is a tier for the killers who are both absolutely fun to go as and against. Here we have Pretty Fun, which are the killers that are gonna be like, yeah, they can be fun most of the time, or either they are a pure joy to go as, but are like, yeah, to go against. Not bad. These are the killers that are just average. They're not horrible, you don't hate them, but you don't exactly get too excited from them either. Then, we have the maybe once category, which is the killers that are gonna be either they're pretty fun for one match, and then after that they're gonna be kind of boring and you're already done with it. And the D tier is rather stub my toe, which I feel like is pretty self-explanatory. Now we're gonna start off with Trapper here, and to go against the Trapper, I'd rather stub my toe. See, the point with Trapper, the issue here is that playing against Trapper, there is not much happening. Trapper himself doesn't do anything, half the match is gonna be you sitting on gems because the Trapper has to set up, and even if you're in chase, Trapper is just gonna be annoying. Because what will happen is you will just run, and then eventually you will get snapped by a bear trap hiding within a bush with the darkness add-on, and you can't do anything against it, meaning you just got downed by something you could not see. Which is just not fun. Or we have the opposite, where it's you're just gonna loop an M1 killer and nothing will ever happen in anything special, so it's just gonna be boring. Playing as the Trapper, however, is where it gets a bit more interesting, because I will show you what playing as Trapper feels like. That's about what Trapper is. Because sometimes you get those very clutch moments where the bear trap does something extremely fancy, extremely cool, and you're pure joy because, well, it's the basic that it happened. But then you remember that that was your first down, and four of the 5 gens are already done, the final gen is already halfway through, and no hook is nearby except for one, which has just been sabotaged. So, overall, I'd say Trapper is maybe once. Then, these two should be reversed. We have the Wraith. Now, starting by talking about how it is to play as the Wraith, I'd say in the current state he's pretty fun. Previously, before the light burn mechanic was removed, I'd say he was like bouncing between high and between these two. But now that it's removed and there is nothing that can really be abused, I'd say he's pretty fun. He has some skill mechanics to him, he has some depth to him. So yeah, pretty fun. Going against the Wraith, however, sometimes feels like you don't really have anything. Like there isn't much that you can do, which kind of puts it at like not bad. Like it's not horrible. There's still fun to be had, but it's not that amazing. So on that note, it bounces between these two, and I'm tempted to give the small edge to Pretty Fun, but he could be in basically either of these. Next up is Hillbilly. Playing against a Hillbilly to me is not bad. Playing against the Hillbilly, there is a little bit of an element to it of skill with like using the environment to effectively dodge his chainsaw or prevent his chainsaw, which is nice. Though it does get kind of boring after a bit. Playing as Hillbilly, for me specifically, I'd rather stop my toe, and he could probably be lower if I could do that. Um, but I don't think like I just don't like Hillbilly. I hate everything about playing as him. So I'm gonna put him as an average of this one. I will put him above Trapper though. Nurse. Now playing as Nurse is like, yeah, it's fun for one match. If you've had a couple of bad matches, it's like not bad, pretty fun. Just to like get something good out of it again, just because of how fucking busted Nurse is. But here's the thing. Playing against the Nurse, if it's a baby Nurse, I'd rather stop my toe because that's the most boring ass match in the game. If it's a god tier Nurse, I'd rather stop my toe, but at least the game is over in like 5 seconds. If it's a somewhat decent Nurse that is like still in the learning process, so where you can still mind game her a bit, that's pure joy to me. The issue is the amount of killer players who are in that range of like still in the learning process of Nurse, but they've gotten somewhat decent at it. They basically don't exist. So you're still better than Trapper. Then we get to the first killer, who I would put in the pure joy tier list to go against. And it's mostly because of his add-ons. Yes, his add-ons are overpowered as fuck. But that also does mean that because everything he does is overpowered as fuck in the terms of his add-ons, and his base kit is kind of shit, that it balances out nicely on top of being very diverse. Almost every Michael Myers match will be different. Sometimes you will have scratch mirrors, sometimes you will have someone who's just optimizing to get tier 3 as fast as possible. We have infinite tier 3, we have tombstone pieces, we have vanity mirror, which is an extremely rare but fun playstyle. There is so much to him that is just fun. Playing as Michael Myers, I'd rather stop my toe, it's fucking boring as all shit. So average is at about not bad, but I will give it out the small inch to pretty fun, just because it is still fun to walk menacingly at people, vault fast, and stab them for an insta-down. Hag! Who the fuck plays Hag? I don't know. So playing against a Hag feels like any of these. It can literally be all of these. Because Hag has a pretty like big skill rate, skill range, so she can literally be anywhere here. Playing as a Hag, she can once again be literally anywhere in here, so not bad, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, not bad is about where I would put her. Which brings us to the Cannibal. Don't mind me, I have a little bit of a sore throat, which is kind of hurting. The Cannibal, I would say, playing against the Cannibal, maybe once. There is some fun there, but for the most part, you're just holding W and, like, melting through pallets. That's mostly what you're doing. Playing as Cannibal, I would say not bad. But I'm gonna average him out to maybe once, because his tantrum mechanic is just annoying to deal with for the part of playing as him, and sometimes you stomp onto fucking nothing. Like, just thin air is just like, how about no? So, yeah. Doctor, I'd rather stop my toe. This is one of the killers. Keep in mind, this is my tier list, this is all my opinion. The Doctor, I hate. With a burning passion. There are two killers in the game who I hate with a burning passion. The Doctor is one of them, which sucks because I like his design. I think his thematic, his visuals, his story are so amazing. But his gameplay is so ass. On the part of playing against him, he permanently knows where you are. He ignores any pellet, like every chase is just a time bomb, effectively. Like you're just trying to slow down the fuse rather than actually blowing out the fuse. And it just, in the end, it just doesn't matter what you do, he will catch up if he is any form of decent. Which means playing as him is just as boring because you will catch up eventually, it's just a slow as fuck chase. Knowing where everyone is all the time is nice, but that's about all there is to him. Next up is her Huntress, sorry. And she's gonna go straight into the pure joy category because, well, it's Huntress. She is one of the faces of Dead by Daylight for a very good reason. Her ability is so simple to understand, but it has so much depth that it allows for great skill stealing. She does have some small annoyances to play as, but overall, it's pretty fun and you can ignore quite a lot of stuff. Playing against her, you can dodge her hatchets. Her lullaby is great. The atmosphere against her, just everything just clicks in place for me with Huntress. So that's an easy pure joy for me. Also on that note, I will quickly put you there. Then we have the definition of average Freddy, who I'm gonna put immediately into not bad because he doesn't do much special, but it also means he doesn't do anything like bad, boring, or annoying. So he's just he's a killer. The variation between his snares and his pellets is fun, especially if you don't use your snares early on, which means they will suspect that you have pellets, which means survivors will get paranoid from every pellet that's still up, and you can then suddenly place a snare to surprise them. So that's fun. Playing against Freddy, the atmosphere is there, but he doesn't do much else. He is annoying at holding gens, but that's about it. Another person who belongs straight into the average category is Pig. Because the Pig does a lot of stuff, and none of it is that amazing. But she does have the jump scare stuff, so playing as her, I would put in not bad. Playing against her, I would put in pretty fun. So on average, I would put her at the bottom of pretty fun. Because I think that her stealth mechanics are fun to go against, because they reward being aware. The bear traps, while they can be annoying, give a good distraction from doing gens, and put some pressure onto you, so that's fun. And the ambush can be used mid-chase, which is also something to keep in mind, to not hold out on certain loops too long, which also adds to the flow of the chase. Then we have the Clown. Now the Clown is a weird one, because he's both very fun and very boring at the same time. Landing his bottles is satisfying, he can shut down some loops very easily, there is a lot here to be liked. On the other hand, he doesn't do much, his power is annoying for the survivor, and he doesn't really have much of an atmosphere to him, so I'm gonna put him in maybe once. Between the two Chainsaw Brothers. Now, Spirit is a killer who originally I would put here for playing against her. Now that she's had some changes, however, I would put her at the very bottom of not bad. I don't hate her. She can have some fun moments. Playing as her, I would put in pretty fun. I'm gonna average it out at the top of not bad, because I don't think she has enough to be redeeming in the playing as category to make up for the bottom of not bad. So, bottom of not bad plus bottom of pretty fun. The top of not bad seems right. Legion. Playing as Legion, I would say it's pretty fun. You go speed, you run fast, you vault fast, and then everyone is basically an insta-down. So you're basically a permanent tier 3 Myers, but with slightly less movements, with slightly less vaulting speed. Playing against Legion is like not bad. So just like Spirit, she kind of like bounces in between these, and Legion does so as well. So do I like Legion more than Spirit? I don't think so. Yeah, I do. Now, Plague. Plague is one of the killers who, for me, playing as her is a pure joy. Playing against her is like bottom of not bad. The reason is playing as her never feels the same. Because there's so many ways how survivors can go against her. There is so many ways how survivors can play. You have to adjust to so many things. And in the end, it just balances out quite nicely. So it always feels refreshing, it feels good, she rewards skill, she rewards macro play, and she's just overall a very rewarding killer to play as. Playing against her, however, I would put at the bottom of not bad, because while she isn't exactly horrible to go against, it is kind of boring, because there's not too much that is really satisfying on the survivor end. Like, yeah, you can choose to cleanse or not cleanse, which means either you will risk the red vomit, or you will permanently be sick, injured, and puke, which is not fun. So I'd say she averaged at about here, between Pig and the Wraith. Next up, we have Ghostface. Now, Ghostface is a bit of a weird one, because he's so buggy as a mess that sometimes it just feels like I'd rather stop my toe. But ignoring the bugginess of his power, of the reveal mechanic, I'd say overall, Ghostface belongs, I'd say, here. His power is good, it's fun, it's rewarding to play as, but it's not oppressive. There is enough depth to it. So, yeah, overall, I'd say pretty solid. Playing against him, on the other hand, or on the same hand, technically, is pretty good, because it's rewarding for being attentive. It's rewarding for, like, looping, for being stealthy as well. Like, every gameplay from the survivor side has its per point against a Ghostface. There is no real game style for a survivor that does not do anything against Ghostface. So overall, I'd say pretty fun. Mostly pretty fun and not pure joy because of the bullshit reveal mechanic. Also, as you notice, stealth, 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 stealth. Stealth brings you up quite high in the list. Demogorgon. I haven't gone against the Demogorgon in a good few months. At minimum. So, I'm gonna put this from memory, because I don't think he's had any changes. I'd say overall he belongs here, because I don't really have much reasoning for him, because I haven't interacted with Demogorgon in forever. But I remember his portals are kind of fun to use, even though you can't recycle them. The teleportation aspect is both very strong but not oppressive. The shred is nice to use. Just don't do the daily, that's basically it. Playing against him, similarly, you have counters, you have ways to avoid his stuff, he has clear tells. So yeah, he's just very fun. Next up is Oni, which is the second one for me to go into pure joy above the Huntress. Because I will say preemptively, there are 4 killers in the game who I always love to go against. And we've already had 3 of them, which are Oni, Huntress, and Myers. Now, Oni is just a pure joy to go against because he has enough counters, he has simple gameplay that is easy to understand to go against, and it's easy to, like, work against him. And even in his Omega Strong Power form, there are things you can do to counter him. So yeah, he's not exactly overpowered. He has his clear counters, but he does feel like scary in the sense of like, oh, he's strong, he's gonna kill me. On the other hand, playing as him, on one hand you have a basic M1 killer, which is obviously just simple rewarding for your base mechanics. On top of that, we have the ground slam, the big smack, and the dash, which reward more precise mechanics and more macro play, which is very nice as well. So just overall, Oni is an amazing character. Deathslinger. To play as a Deathslinger is pretty fun. You can shut down quite a lot of loops, but not everything. You can counter certain mind games. For example, the shack with the window, you can do a lot with that. And overall, there's just a lot to him that makes him somewhat satisfying, but not like amazing. Playing against a Deathslinger can sometimes feel a bit cheap, because it can sometimes feel like you just got robbed from something that you had like no way of countering. So overall, I would put him about here. Because while he is pretty fun to go against, it's like, there is stuff I don't like. Similarly, to go against, there is stuff I don't like. We have Pyramid Head. Pyramid Head to go against is very dependent on how Pyramid Head plays. One of the issues is the fact that his cages completely ignore all unhooking perks, which means you can unhook someone from the cage and get no benefits from it. On top of that, he also has some very douchey gameplay mechanics to him, and he can sometimes just feel like you're basically prize shooting at like the fair. So, where it's just like you're just waiting for him to eventually hit. But ignoring those, I'd say to play against him, I'd say he's like the top of not bad. To play as him, he's a very difficult killer, which means automatically it does make him somewhat rewarding. He does have some very satisfying ways to shut down certain loops. He does have some stuff within his kit that can give him some information, or that can make him tricky to counter, which is fun when you're playing as him. So, playing as him, I will put it about here, so I'd say it averages at about the bottom of pretty fun. Now, Blight. Here's the issue with Blight. Are we talking about a normal Blight, or a Compound 34 Alchemy Ring Blight? Because if it's the latter, then obviously this. Obviously, I'd rather stop my toe, because that's just boring as fuck. But if it's an average Blight, which I am going to calculate all of this for the average, I would say Blight belongs to go against at about not top of not bad. Just like Pyramid Head. The reason why I say so is because while his power is fun, simple, and understandable, it can sometimes feel bullshit with hits that should not really hit due to his flicking, so his curving, whatever it's called. As for playing as Blight, obviously that's a pure joy. You're just being fast, bouncing all over the place and hitting survivors. So, duh. Obviously that's a pure joy, so it average at about here. The twins. I can't remember the last time I played against twins. Or played as twins. Because they are a buggy mess. So, playing as twins, I would say about here, not bad. There is some bullshit that makes them very annoying to play as. But overall, it's simplistically fun, but not much else to it. Playing against twins, maybe once. They're like fun for one match, so I'd say they average at about here because, well, they have some bullshit that's just annoying. And we've now reached the fourth killer, who I always love to go against, Nemesis. His zombies are dumb as fuck, but can sometimes be a real interesting hazard. Simultaneously, Nemesis himself, his tentacle, is very fun to dodge and has clear counterplay. Also, the fact that he needs to hit you 3 times to down you helps quite a lot. Now, playing as Nemesis, the tentacle is very satisfying to hit. Zombies are absolute dumbasses, but can be very interesting obstacles for survivors that can sometimes make for some interesting plays that you have to make up on the fly, which is fun. And I'd say overall, Nemesis just belongs in the pure joy, and I'd honestly go so far to say that he belongs above Huntress. I'm just gonna preemptively say no one else will belong in the pure joy category. Next up, Trickster. Playing against a Trickster, I'd rather stub my toe. Similarly to Doctor, he has the issue where you're not trying to defuse the bomb, you're just slowing down the fuse. Eventually the bomb will burst and you will go down. There is not much you can do against it. You're just trying to make it as slow as possible. But as I said before, there are 2 characters that I absolutely hate with a burning passion. Trickster is not one of those 2. Because unlike Doctor, playing as Trickster is not bad. His knives are kind of fun to use. The fact that he can shut down loops at a somewhat faster rate than Doctor is nice, and you have more freedom over how you play with Trickster compared to how you play with Doctor. So I'd say he averaged at about here. There, yeah. Next up we have Pinhead. Now, playing as Pinhead, I'd say is pretty... no, not there. Pretty fun. His chains are fun to hit. If you find the box, that's such a good feeling. And overall, his voice lines also help. Overall, he just plays nicely. Playing against a Pinhead ranges from here to here. And the issue is that it's purely dependent on the brain cells of your teammates. So I would say he averages at about... assuming you have average teammates, so with average IQ, I'd say he averaged at about here. Artist. Now, Artist is a killer that I played a lot. And so I can say playing as her, it's pretty fun. She definitely feels fun to play. She has some fun gimmicks to her power that can help her in ways that most other killers cannot shut down loops. Just like Pyramid Head, she can ignore walls, which is interesting. She also has cross-map potential. She has cross-map gen checking effectively. She has a lot of stuff. But all of her stuff is limited in power on her end, and the other half of her power strength depends on how the survivors react to it, which makes it fun. On the survivor's side, similarly, I would put her at about here. So yeah, I think she belongs here quite well. She has a lot of fun plays, you can counter her in some fun ways, and overall it's just a pretty fun time. Sadako. Now, Sadako has got some new changes, and I've not yet gotten to them, so I am gonna refuse to talk about Sadako for now. I will say, using her old form, so before the patch that happened a couple days ago, I would say she would average at about here. I think her old form, she was somewhat fun to play as, somewhat fun to play against, had some bullshit, had some fun stuff, so she really was a pretty average killer to go against. But because I have no experience with her new form, which seems to change up her gameplay somewhat, I don't feel like I can really judge her too well. So keep in mind, this is where she was. I don't know if this is where she will be. Next up, we have Dredge, who I've gotten a newfound love for recently. Playing against Dredge, I would say at about here. He's fun, he has some fun counterplays, especially when he tries to use his power in chase. The lockers are kind of like a mini side objective, which is fun. The darkness is fun, but just sometimes annoying, and it really depends on the map how effective it is. As for playing as Dredge, I would say he's about here. Similarly to Demogorgon, honestly, where his power for mid-chase is fun but has clear counterplay, it's not oppressive. His teleport is strong but not oppressive, and overall he's just a very fun and diverse killer. I'd say he averaged at about here. There. Next up we have Wesker. Playing as Wesker is a pure joy. I don't think I need to say much about this. Wesker is fun, Wesker is simple to understand, but he has a lot of like little stuff to him that makes him fun and rewarding. Playing against Wesker is, I'd say, about here, because his hitbox can feel bullshit sometimes. His 40-meter terror radius is a weird one to work with, and overall he's just like, he's fun, but he has some stuff that hinders his fun a bit. Overall, I would say I'd rate him above the light. I'd say about here on average. So, when I said there were two killers that I absolutely hate, with a burning passion, here we have number 2. You know what? You know what? We're gonna do this. Add row below. Thank you. Change this to like the dark gray. Delete. There we go. Knight, especially for you, you're gonna go there. Playing as the knight is absolutely boring as fuck. There is nothing interesting about him. There is nothing fun about him. His power does not represent being a knight. His power is just so confusingly stupid. And half the time you're not even getting any real rewards out of it. Outside of, oh, I force the survivor to leave the loop, or I can break this pallet while I walk away. Which, the last thing, does Nemesis. Nemesis already does that, but better. Because whereas the knight actually needs to stand still for a moment, Nemesis can just slap the pallet while still keep on walking. As for playing against the knight, oh my god, that's a snore fest. It's absolutely boring. There is absolutely nothing redeeming about playing knight, neither against or as. Now, a killer that most people will feel similarly to is the Skull Merchant. I feel different, though. Now, playing against a skull Merchant, I haven't gone against many, but the few I've gone against, I'd say she's at the bottom of maybe once. She has some fun stuff, but there isn't much to it. Playing as Skull Merchant, she has some fun stuff, so I'd say about here, mostly because of her speedy stuff. And if you notice the theme, going fast is generally pretty fun. So I'd say because of that, she averages at about here. Where she isn't fun to go against, really. There she has some small fun elements, such as the hacking minigames, which is just something different to do, honestly. Playing as her, she has some fun elements to it, and she has some depth. So I'd say, yeah. And lastly, the Singularity. Now, the Singularity is an interesting one. He's still relatively new, but I'd say playing as the Singularity, I would say it's about here. Singularity has a lot of stuff to him, which means you need to be hyper aware when playing him, you need to be very active when playing him, which is very fun if it is your playstyle. However, if you want a more laid-back playstyle, do not play him because he has a lot of stuff you need to take into consideration that you constantly need to think about, you need to check, you need to make sure of. But if that is your playstyle, the hyperactive playstyle, he is super fun to play. One of the most fun killers in the game. Now, playing against Singularity, I would say is about not bad. There isn't too much. I'd say about there. There isn't too much to playing against the Singularity because, similarly to Doctor, it's more so like an eventually he will catch up situation. And the fact that he can shred through pallets super fast as well does not help in the survivor fun. So while he is super fun to go against, Singularity is kind of boring at multiple points. And the EMPs also don't feel like that engaging to use. Whereas I would say the hacking mechanic from Skull Merchant would feel more engaging. So I'd say you average at about the top of not bad. So, there we have it. There is my tier list of all the Dead by Daylight killers on how fun they are for the game. I'm pretty satisfied with this list. One more time, I will say Sadako would belong here. That is where I would put Sadako in the old form. In the new form, if I had to judge on what I know about her, so what I've seen, I would say she goes up to about here, I think, in her new form, but I'm not entirely sure. So she stays in the 2B ranked category. So, my tier list of all the DBD killers, how fun are they? Do you agree? Do you disagree? You probably disagree with some parts, but hey, that's the point of a tier list. And if you do disagree, let me know down in the comments section and tell me how stupidly dumb I am. Do give some actual arguments, please, but thank you very much for giving the feedback on how fucking dumb I am and how wrong my opinions are. So with that, I have only one thing to say. Stay calm, stay kind, stay caring. Lucius, signing out. Goodbye.